nothing does not cling or grasp, but instead moves along effortlessly and smoothly with the current. By letting go, you achieve everything. By letting go, you achieve everything. Hopefully you will get a taste of that today in a few of the experiential exercises. Osho says, people are not in the present at all. That's how they are missing life. Life is the present, and you are not in the present. To be in the present is to be in meditation. That's all meditation is about, to be in the present. Medical dictionaries, have their definitions, and they tend to emphasize that this is a technique, that you learn, and it helps with stress and anxiety and so forth. And however, for many people, meditation is much more than a technique. It becomes part of a way of life. And we will again be talking about that a little bit. I do want to mention that in comparison to a true meditation sensei or master who has trained for years as a student under a sensei or master, who himself had trained for years under a sensei or master, and who also has trained for years and so forth. Well, folks like me in comparison are Johnny come lately or Joni come lately. So I want to paraphrase John the Baptist, who said about the fact that there was somebody coming after him, Jesus, and he said, I'm not worthy to untie the straps of their sandals. Well, I'm just a regular guy who happens to have been meditating for 40 plus years. Alan Watts, who is perhaps the preeminent, certainly one of the most preeminent Westerners in the field of meditation, and was into mindfulness meditation, gave this definition. Meditation is the discovery that the point of life is always arrived at in the immediate moment. The point of life is always arrived at in the immediate moment. There's a process or technique of meditating, how to be fully present in the moment of the now, and we're going to practice that. His instruction, simply watch everything going on without attempting to change it in any way, without judging it, without calling it good or bad. Just watch it. That is the essential process of meditation. And he compares that to dancing. He said, when we dance, the journey itself is the point. We're not dancing for some ultimate objective, unless you're on Dancing with the Stars and you're trying to win a contest. It's the process. The same is true in meditation. The point of life is arrived at in this immediate moment. Now, a modern take on this, Gary Mack, who wrote Mind Gym, Gym spelled G-Y-M, and talking about sports. Playing your game in the present, there is no pressure. Pressure is created by anxiety about the future and remembered failures from the past. Billie Jean King, world famous tennis player. The only point in tennis that matters is this point. The next point means nothing. The last point means nothing. Only this point matters. Hitting a baseball. I remember when I was in a little league and my coach was instructing on how to hit a baseball. He would say, watch the ball hit the bat. Not watch the bat hit the ball. Watch the ball hit the bat. What are you doing? You're letting your mind be filled with the presence of the ball. That takes center stage. At the time, I had no inkling that literally this was a lesson in mindfulness, a lesson in mindfulness. So at its most basic, meditation is a strategy and a technique to reduce stress and promote relaxation. And if that's all you want to get out of it, you'll get a lot out of it. And it also is much more than that. It facilitates being more fully, more completely in this present moment. And it facilitates our ability to stay in the now and be completely in this, the now, and savor this moment in a way that extremely few other experiences can do, except for relatively brief transitory moments. We all have things we can do that in the moment we can get into it. However, to sustain that moment becomes very difficult. In sports, they use the phrase talking about being in the zone. I was in the zone. I couldn't miss a shot. Everything was falling. That's what we're talking about here. So you can learn meditation simply as a technique, and it can be very helpful. However, again, in the more traditional forms, meditation is not a technique separate from life. The Buddha said, if you're standing on one shore and want to cross over to the other shore, you have to use a boat or swim across. You can't just think, oh, be on the other shore. So to a Buddhist, praying without also practicing is not real prayer. Christianity is very similar in that regard. Just going to church on Sunday doesn't make you a Christian. You need to live a Christian life. So the traditional forms of meditation teach meditation within the framework and ethos of a way of living in our world. For example, Vipassana mindfulness meditation. And I'm going to read from my book on meditation, of which there is a handout that does a book review of it. I'm going to just tell you what one description of Vipassana meditation is in terms of the ethical factors that must be considered. And now I'm sitting here. Here we go. So now this is not in your handout, so it's a long paragraph, so you just need to listen to it if you would. Vipassana meditation requires a commitment to maintaining a conduct of morality or code of behavior. This conduct demands not engaging in any physical or verbal action which disturbs the peace and harmony of others. The list of actions to avoid includes killing, including not eating anything that involves killing living creatures, stealing, committing sexual misconduct, telling lies, using intoxicants. Such abstinence is essential to, quote, allow the mind to quiet down enough in order to proceed further. This code of conduct is a baseline prerequisite underlying Vipassana meditation. Abstinence from these actions clearly is espoused as the right thing to do. Now, there's no such ethical imperatives in practicing mindful awareness, but in practicing mindfulness in the traditional sense, there is a code of conduct. And again, all the classic forms of meditation have some code of conduct. So it's meditation in that sense is much more than simply a technique. Now, as far as the varieties of meditation go, of course, you're getting a Cliff Notes version here, but I'm going to give you two ways to classify meditations in two distinct categories. One way to classify meditation is as faith-based or as secular. Now, of course, faith-based is you have a faith, you have a religious belief, you believe that there is a presence that exists in the world that goes beyond what is present here on the planet Earth. And there is something out there in the cosmos that infuses all life. And it is not something that can be proven by traditional empirical research. It's a matter of faith. On the other hand, secular meditation only ascribes to that which can be proven by standard Western scientific methods of inquiry. And so things that are considered supernatural or religious or spiritual are not part of secular meditation. So I want to mention a great book for those of you who are really into secular meditation by Rick Heller. And this is again in my bibliography in the handout. Rick Heller, Secular Meditation, beautifully done book, very concise. He's been in charge of the humanistic activities club at, I believe, at Harvard for a long time. And they basically take Buddhist practice of mindfulness and strip away all the quote unquote supernatural and practice what one might say is a Buddhist form of meditation originally as a humanist or humanistic or agnostic or atheistic form of meditation. So I always ask clients as we're starting, would you be more interested in a faith-based or religious-based form of meditation or a more secular-based form of meditation? Almost all clients that I've seen have a preference for one or the other of those. A very small number will say they don't care, they can go either way with it. But the vast majority have one preference or another, which is why we need to be sensitive to the dynamics and content that are involved in both of them. So again, you don't have to be Hindu to do mantra meditation. You don't have to be Buddhist to practice mindfulness. Now, faith-based meditation with a spiritual religious core or thrust. Again, I've mentioned that. And Edgar Cayce said meditation is listening to the divine within. Meditation is listening to the divine within. And Herbert Benson, who became famous for the relaxation response back in the 1970s, and described it as a very secular technique. What is not so well known is in 1985, he came out with a second book and he talked about the missing factor, faith in meditation, and how a strong faith enhances the benefits of the secular relaxation response. So you can find meditation in practically all of the world's great religious traditions. Hinduism, Islam, Sufism, Jewish, Kabbalah, Eastern Orthodox Catholic Church, Taoism, Buddhism, and it's a central element in Christian contemplative prayer, as an example. It can include any religious element that the meditator chooses to include. The earliest written record of meditation, by the way, goes back to about 2000 to 2500 BC in the Hindu Vedic scriptures. Jewish religion has a rich meditation history going back to at least several thousand years. Buddhism, mindfulness-based meditation, dates back to the Buddha, who was born by varying accounts in the 4th to the 6th century BC. Christian meditation dates back to at least the 3rd to 4th century AD, with the desert fathers and mothers who led a very monastic life in what is now the eastern Sinai desert of Egypt. And the desert fathers and mothers were described as reciting out loud or reciting silently throughout the day, and reciting to where it became as second nature as breathing, what ultimately became known as the Jesus Prayer. Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me. And then later the words a sinner were added. And the short form was, Lord, have mercy. So throughout the day, they'd be repeating, Lord, have mercy, Lord, have mercy, Lord, have mercy. There's a scripture of Martha and Mary. Those of you who might be familiar in Luke 10:38 to 42. Jesus comes to visit at the house of Martha, and Martha is there with her sister Mary. Mary goes and sits down in front of Jesus. And Martha is busy running around in the kitchen, getting things ready. And she's rushing around doing this and that, being a good hostess. And then she keeps getting angrier and angrier because her sister is there sitting with Jesus doing nothing. Finally, she goes in and says to Jesus, Jesus, would you tell Mary to come and help me. Jesus said something like, Martha, Martha, your mind is so full of things. Mary has the better part of it, and it will not be taken from her. One interpretation of that scripture is that to be still is to be in the presence of our Lord. And if we are too busy running around doing things, we are going to miss being there. And of course, all of us have a little Martha and a little Mary, and some of us more of one than the other. So I want to mention also that St. Macarius in the 3rd century AD said, there is no other perfect meditation than the saying and blessed name of our Lord Jesus Christ, dwelling without interruption in you. This practice is called interior recollection. And he said, you abandon distractive thoughts and humbly invoke the name of Jesus with all your heart. Well, you can make that a secular instruction by having different words than Lord Jesus. And the rest of the instruction becomes the same, abandoning distractive thoughts, humbly invoking whatever your mantra is with all of your heart. Richard Baxter, a Puritan theologian, described in the 1650s a Protestant and evangelical approach to meditation. And Baxter references the biblical David's description of the blessed man who meditates both day and night per scripture. So I just have a couple more points and then we're done with this very quick walkthrough of faith-based meditation and historical timelines. In the 70s, in Christianity, was the emergence of centering prayer, in which meditation is a central element. The emphasis is on interior silence, getting in touch with God who dwells within each of us. Finally, to be discussed a little bit later, the practice of meditation by some Christian denominations and sects raises the question as to the nature of the complementary relationship between meditation and prayer. Is there a complementary relationship? And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Finally, there are Christian denominations and sects and theologians who consider meditation to be evil, that it blanks and empties the mind. And as such, it's dangerous, it's occult, it's unbiblical, it's not to be condoned, it's not Christocentric, it's not Christ-centered. As an example, yoga is described as having demonic roots because Hinduism is demonic, as are all false religions in this perspective. And yoga positions are considered as opening you up to demonic powers and causing demonic trances. I mention this because if you have a client who is Christian, I am very careful to say, does your Christian belief or your religious belief, does that interfere in any way with us learning some meditation? And if they don't know or they're confused about it, I'll say, well, here's my handout, actually the handout that you have. Take it to your minister or your pastor and so forth, and talk about the kind of meditation we're going to do here. And if there's concern about it, then we won't do it. It's as simple as that. I'm not trying to convince someone that meditation is not something that they believe that it is. So let me stop there because that was a very quick walk through faith-based meditations. And again, the secular meditation can be summed up very simply, and Rick Keller talks about it as, again, there's nothing in the meditation that can't be proven by traditional Western scientific inquiry. And so it's oftentimes based on humanistic values and, values of compassion and love for one's neighbors and doing our best to be a positive influence in the world. absent any particular religious belief. All right, the other way to most simply categorize meditation is along an axis of either concentrative meditation or opening up of awareness meditation. I'm going to briefly describe the path of concentrative forms of meditation or shutting down meditation. And the most common by far in the Western world of such is mantra meditation, of which I am very familiar with. And in contrast to mindfulness and opening up of awareness, which we'll talk about in a little while, concentrative forms of meditation, you shut down your awareness. You bring your awareness down to a single point of awareness. And there is an attempt to restrict your awareness to this single, unchanging source of stimulation or attention for a definite period of time. There's a one-pointedness of the mind on this focal point. And you consistently bring your wandering mind back to this one point. Now, this attention could be external. You could be focusing on a candle, a lit candle. You could be focusing on an image of Buddha or an image of Jesus as an example. And or you can have an inward focus. And that could be on breath. Perhaps the most common in the West is mantra-based meditation, where you have a word or a short phrase that is your focal point of meditation. And everything is concentrated on this mantra that you have. Now, the instructions about how you maintain your concentration vary dramatically depending on the type of meditation. From some, it's a very active, assertive will to stick to the target of concentration, whether it's a candle, an image, words, and to resist any wandering, very actively resist. The other end of the continuum is a very passive mode where you simply regenerate the target object when it has become lost in your flow of awareness. And this is what I was taught in TM. We were given a very basic instruction. And I have found this to be central to being able to meditate productively. Neutral awareness of a distraction, gently return to your meditation focus. Neutral awareness of any distraction, gently return to your meditation focus. So, mantra meditation, of course, at the heart of mantra meditation is having a mantra. And in the traditional mantra, such as that was Hindu or Buddhist based, you would be given a mantra by your teacher, by your sensei. I met with my TM teacher for, I don't remember how many sessions, this was back in 1977, so I can hardly remember the year, let alone how many times we met. But after so many sessions, my meditation teacher assigned me a mantra purportedly based upon his familiarity with me and what would be a well-fitting mantra. And the generic instruction for a mantra was that it need to be easily repeated, pleasant sounding, or that might have special significance. And I instruct clients to choose their own mantra, which is quite different than being in a sensei-student relationship where the teacher assigns the mantra. And I mentioned, for example, they might be interested in a single word like joy, peace, love, faith, hope, shalom, serenity, or a short phrase, peace begins with me, this too shall pass, my Lord, my God. There also can be a mantra with no meaning. The classic were the classic earliest sounds of Om and Om. Some consider these to be the root sound of all sounds. In fact, some theologians posit that Amen or Amen is a derivative of the more ancient Om. So you can pick a mantra with no meaning.
You wanted me to let you know when it was 9:30.
Yes.
This is the friendly reminder.
I am shocked that I'm actually right where I wanted to be. Thank you for that reminder. So the impact of the mantra itself can be changed by how you recite the mantra. And I'm going to walk you through that in a very few minutes here. So I want to briefly describe my initiation into TM in 1977 and how I've evolved to have two mantras. And I do want to mention that just because I've been meditating for 40 plus years doesn't mean I'm a great meditator. Vince Lombardi, legendary National Football League coach of the Green Bay Packers, he was famous for having these practice sessions where everything was down to the nth degree. Everything was mapped out, and he ran people through the practices time and again. And Vince Lombardi made famous a saying that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Some of us could be practicing imperfectly for decades. And that's where having a consultant, a sensei, a peer who you can bounce things off of and perhaps help to make sure that you are more practicing perfectly than imperfectly can be quite important. In any case, in TM, as in classic mantra meditation, wasn't the meaning of the mantra that was important. It's the sound of the mantra. The mantra sound was considered to have the beneficial impact. And so we were each given a mantra, a word with no meaning, and we were told to keep our mantra secret. And I might mention that is the classic way that it has been done down through the centuries, is that you were secretly given a mantra by your teacher and you maintained that secrecy. I did that for about 20 years. I maintained that secrecy. And then finally, after about 20 years, as I was starting to do a little more teaching of meditation in my practice, in terms of self-disclosure, I felt that I needed to mention what my mantra was as an example. And so I did after about 20 years. The mantra I was given was Sharim, S-H-I-R-I-M. And now Sharim, like the other mantras in TM, as will be found out later, all came from the 20,000 plus mantras that are recorded in the ancient Vedic scriptures back to 2500 BC or so. These are ancient. And I was told that Sharim, that it was the sound that was important. There was no meaning attached to the mantra. As a slight aside, I did some research years later and found out that there is a Sharim that does have a meaning. But I was given Sharim without any meaning. So this was my mantra. And for 20 years, twice a day, and then I didn't go to twice a day, but it was still my mantra. And then I need to mention as a slight aside that I'm a practicing Catholic Christian, and I do go to church fairly regularly. Before the coronavirus, my wife and I would go to morning mass 5 days a week and then to weekend mass. So I'm in church a lot. And I'd be in church. One day I was in church and it was a Saturday or a Sunday. And I remember sitting there and my mind started wandering. Gee, is the Saints football game start at 1 o'clock or 12:30? Are we going to get out of here in time to make it there? And man, is the priest going to go on with his homily? And when's he going to stop? And then I would catch myself, Ray, what are you doing? Get back to being present here. That happened a few more times, and all of a sudden I had a thought, hey, Ray, why don't you do your mantra here, do a mantra meditation, a short one while you're sitting here in church. And that'll help quiet your mind and bring you back. So I closed my eyes, silently repeated Shadim, Shadim for 30 seconds, 60 seconds. It centered me, brought me back, quieted my mind, and I was back paying attention to what I should have been paying attention to in the first place. A little later, when my mind would start wandering again, I would repeat the process. I did this for several Sundays. And then one Sunday, when that happened, I started repeating my TM mantra. I had a discordant thought. It was, Ray, this doesn't quite feel right. You're repeating this Hindu-based mantra in a Christian mass. I think you need to pick a different mantra. So I said, what mantra? And I picked the word Jesu, which is the Latin pronunciation of Jesus. I had studied Latin in high school. I don't know about you, but when I went to high school, if you were going to go to college, you were encouraged to take Latin as your foreign language because so many words in law and in medicine are Latin. And a lot of the English language has derivation in Latin. So I studied Latin in high school for 2 years, then I sung Latin in the church choir. So I loved the language and I loved the Latin pronunciation of Jesus. So Jesu became my mantra. And so anytime I was in church and I felt a need to meditate, I would click into Jesu. When I left church and I felt like meditating, I would click into Shadim. So I ended up having 2 mantras for a number. I still have those 2 mantras, though I use Jesu a lot more now, even outside of church. So we are now going to walk through the 13 steps that I use to introduce clients to meditation. And these are all in the handout. And again, you should be doing this only after you personally have at least a familiarity with meditation, obviously. You got to be at least a few steps ahead of your clients, and hopefully more than a few steps for when issues might come up, which we'll talk about later. So what are these steps? First step, selection. What I do is I introduce clients to at least 4 different forms of meditation. I introduce them to mantra-based meditation. Then I introduce them to a breath count-based 7-11 form of meditation, which you're going to learn today. I introduce them to a mindfulness breath-based form of meditation. And I introduce them to a hybrid mantra and breath-based form of meditation. And you're going to be introduced to all of those today. I don't do all these at one session. I do the mantra first, and then I oftentimes then will do the 7-11 second in the same session, because I want clients to have at least a taste of 2 very different types of meditation to begin with. That way, when they go home, if mantra meditation just doesn't cut it with them, they have something else, 7-11, they can be trying, or vice versa. All right. The other thing, 2 other reasons I like to do mantra meditation first. Number 1, it's the form of meditation that I am by far most versed in. And secondly, mantra meditation is extremely well suited for being done as faith-based or secular. And so that leaves it to be quite apropos then, because it depends then on the orientation of the client. So I will ask a client, what's your preference? Faith-based mantra or a secular mantra? I've only had maybe 2 clients that ever said, oh, I don't care. Typically a client will say, oh, I want faith-based or I want secular. And okay, great. And then we start talking about mantras a little bit. No meaning, om. Examples of no meaning. Faith-based examples, since I almost have all Christian people of the Christian faith where I live. I'm going to mention ones that are more in that direction. I'll say examples of Christian faith-based mantras include Jesus, Jesus Christ, my Lord, my God, God be with me, let go, let God, Jehovah. You could do a Hindu, Om Shanti, in honor of the Divine Mother. You do Allah. You can do Shahina, American Indian, gift of God. Or you can do a secular form, peace, calm, courage, strength, hope, joy, patience, love. Peace begins with me. This too shall pass. I am in charge of me. Typically, when people are picking a mantra like that, they're picking something that has a quality about it that they perhaps wish they had more of, or that they want to enhance in themselves. So I'll say, now, whatever mantra you pick for today, it's just for today, so I can practice with you and introduce you to the mantra meditation. When you go home, you can do research on it. You can do a Google search on mantras, and you can have numerous websites and check out various mantras to see if there's one you would rather have than the one you pick for today. But eventually you got to settle on one. There's an ancient proverb, there are many paths up the mountain. You'll get to the top much quicker if you stick to one path. And a lot of people, they keep jumping around from one to the other, trying to find the perfect one. And then they end up not moving anywhere because they're continually starting over again. So pick a mantra. Now, for purposes of today, I'm going to arbitrarily pick one for all of us. And I'm going to pick one that I think probably everyone, I hope, could be comfortable with repeating, and that would be peace. In this day and time, I can't think of any mantra that's more relevant than peace. And of course, once you start your meditating, you can switch to something else if you wish, if you don't like the word peace, but I'm going to use the word peace. Now, we need to do some stretching or limbering up, and this is in part of one of your handouts. I'm going to stand up, and if you want to do this too, or if you want to sit there, or if you have a physical condition that doesn't allow you to stand or do these comfortably standing, please do whatever you can sitting. The idea, there's nothing sacred about what I'm going to go through right now. It's just a series of stretches that I happened to learn from actually a Soviet psychiatrist who was visiting our program at American Lake in Tacoma, Washington. And the idea is to get some of the kinks out so that you don't have one more source of distraction while you're meditating, okay? Now, I usually do 5 or 6 repetitions. I'm just going to do 3 just because of timeline here. And again, these are in your handout. There's a whole page that describes these. So first of all, I start off, my legs are spread comfortably, my hands are on my hips, and I just do a series of bending down forward with my head towards the ground, holding that for a moment, then slowly bringing my torso back up and moving my head backwards, pointing it backwards, resting for a moment. And I repeat that, forward and pause, slowly up, backward and pause, forward and pause, up, backward and pause. Again, I usually do it 5 or 6 times. Then, and sometimes I do the sequence a little differently, but then I do a series of waist rotations. So you're bending forward and you're going to rotate completely in one direction all the way around your waist as much as you can, back 360 degrees. Rotate again. As you go back, you put your shoulders back and you bring your head around to the front and you continue that 360 degrees in one direction. Then you go in the opposite direction for the same number of rotations. I'm going to do 2. And I'm doing them a little faster than I normally do them again because of timeline here. And so then that's the waist rotation. Okay. Next, I do what I call a torso twist. It's kind of a Tai Chi thing a little bit. And what you do is you're again standing with your hands on your hips and you have your hands, and what you're going to do is you're going to turn with your feet planted, you're going to twist your torso all the way around with your head rotated backwards and both of your arms and hands pointed backwards, and you hold that. Then you slowly swing around through the front, 360, almost 360 degrees in the opposite direction. So you're facing backwards from the other side, and you'll hold that for a count of a couple. And you repeat your torso twist. All the way around to one side, pause, slowly, all the way around to the other side, pause. Okay, I then do a series of arm rotations. And in the arm rotations, you have your arms straight out, and you move them 360 degrees in one direction. I usually go forward first. And then you reverse it, and you go in the reverse direction, 360. And then finally, next to finally, I do a neck rotation. Bend your head forward, do a neck rotation all the way around, 360 degrees in one direction. And then in the other direction, 360 degrees. All right, and then finally, I do, in the old days, I used to call this toe touching. Now I call it toe pointing. And I start the toe touching or toe pointing with having my hands on my hips, and I lean backwards and stretch in that direction a little bit. Then I go forward and down and do my toe touching or my toe pointing, hold that. Then I come back up, hands on hips, and do my head back again as far as it'll go comfortably, and repeat. That is it, folks. That's it. And again, the key, some people might need to do some of the rotations more than others because that happens to be the area where they have a lot of stiffness. And again, you can modify these from a sitting position if you need to and want to. Breathing. I instruct, and those of you who have heard about belly or diaphragm generated breathing versus breathing from the chest area. Okay, and the way to check yourself on this is, as you're saying, if you're breathing in, when you're breathing in, if you put your hand on your stomach, when you're breathing in, your stomach expands. When you breathe out, your stomach contracts. You breathe in, your stomach expands. You breathe out, your stomach contracts. If your stomach is hardly moving, then that means you're breathing much more shallowly from your chest area rather than deeper down. And you want to give yourself as much breath support as you can. So I do that simply as a transition from whatever I've been doing to meditating. And I might do that for 30 seconds or maybe up to 60 seconds, depending how discombobulated I was when I was starting my meditation. Okay, distractions and how to deal with distractions. This is perhaps the most challenging thing for most people in terms of maintaining and enhancing their meditation. What is a distraction? A distraction is anything that is not your meditation focus. So in a mantra form of meditation, anything that is not focused on your mantra is a distraction. What kind of distractions? The most common distraction by far, thoughts. So a thought of anything that is not the word mantra is a distraction. In this case, I'm sorry, the word peace is the distraction. And that includes positive thoughts. Positive thoughts are just as, if not more distracting than negative thoughts. They all accomplish the same thing. They take your attention away from your focus. So again, remember the TM guidance. Neutral awareness of a distraction, gently return to your meditation focus. Now, I read, I think Christy Lee wrote this in Yoga, Body, Buddha, Mind. One technique she learned to do this is to use the neutral word, thought, if it's a thought. So whatever the thought is, think thought, and then gently come back to your mantra. If it's a noise, other distractions, noise, smells, physical aches and pains, visual, which is why a lot of meditations are done with the eyes closed, visual, temperature. Again, anything that is not your mantra in this case is a distraction. So neutral awareness, gently return. By the way, having too many thoughts is one of the two most common excuses given by people who aren't meditating or aren't doing it regularly. I have too many thoughts. I don't have enough time. And all the meditation masters speak to both of those points. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh, I don't know if you have not heard of Thich Nhat Hanh. Again, he is in the handout, ThichNhathanh, is a Buddhist monk, peace activist, prolific writer. He has 3 retreat communities here in the US, one in New York, one in California, and one in northern Mississippi, of all places. So Thich Nhat Hanh has a beautiful saying that I repeat to clients, and they have found this to be very helpful. He said, smile, breathe, and go slowly. Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. I add feelings and thoughts to the saying. Smile, breathe, and go slowly. Feelings and thoughts come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. I'll tell clients, just think, it's like a cloud appears. You can't make it appear. You can't keep the cloud in the sky. You can't push it along. You can't remove it. It comes when it comes. It stays as it stays. It leaves when it leaves. Those are your thoughts. Those are your emotions. You let them be as clouds. You stop trying to control them. You let them be. And sooner or later, they drift away. And this becomes very important when we're talking about PTSD and people having intrusive imagery and intrusive thoughts. And we'll briefly chat about that a little bit more later. So and I will tell you in this practice session, I'm going to be repeating the mantra peace. I'm going to repeat it out loud while you repeat it silently. And as I repeat it, I'm going to throw out the word thought or smell or sounds, and then go right back to the mantra. That is illustrating that I just had a thought or a smell or a sound distraction, and then I go immediately right back to the mantra. If your reaction is, oh no, I'm having that thought again. Well, that really attaches you to the thought. Or, oh, what a beautiful image I just had. That's just as bad. That takes you away. So there's a beautiful Hawaiian proverb. The mind is like the wind that blows one way and then blows another. So does the mind turn and the thoughts depart. I lived in Hawaii 3 different times and was very blessed to lived there and got to be around some native Hawaiian healers, and they have some very powerful knowledge. Now, Muji says, there's no need to believe or disbelieve your thoughts. Just don't enter into anything. Don't enter into your thoughts. The thoughts don't disturb you. You get distracted. Nothing exists in itself as a distraction. It is you who gets distracted. Why? So, as you are getting distracted, you gently come back to your mantra. It is not the absence of thought that's essential to meditation. It's our attitude and reactions towards our thoughts or any other distractions. I call it developing a gentle rhythm. Distraction, mantra, thought, mantra, smell, mantra, 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 thought, mantra, mantra, thought, 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 mantra, mantra, mantra. You keep coming back gently to the mantra, regardless of all these distractions. I use two music metaphors that clients have found very helpful from my music background. One is bass guitar in a band. Now, here, the bass guitarist has this bass guitar right in, playing this bass lick, dum, dum. You got a lead singer up there going crazy. You got a lead guitarist doing his thing or her thing. You've got rhythm guitars. You might have some horns playing. You got the singers going on. You got the audience out there clapping and cheering. And what's that bass guitarist doing? Dum, dum, dum. That is your mantra. That is your meditation focus. You are aware of all the other sounds and noises and visuals that are going on. You're aware of them. You don't blank your mind. You put your attention on your meditation focus, in this case, on your mantra. You keep coming back. You be that bass guitar lick. That is your mantra. Piano, left hand in Latin, continuoso. The left hand is playing the continuous, the bass. The right hand's doing the treble. Sometimes they might be in unison, but typically they're both playing different things. The left hand is the continuoso. That's the bass. That's your mantra. Let that right hand do its thing. Let your brain go all over the place. Stay with that continuoso. Stay with it. Stay with it. Gently, easily. Pad and pen tactic. I was told by my teacher not to do this, but I like to rebel, and I do it anyway every now and then. If I had a particularly persistent thought, like for example, I know that right after I get done meditating, there's 3 things I got to do. And I'm sitting there and I start meditating and I start thinking about these 3 things. Well, the proper instruction is let them go, come back to your mantra. And I'll attempt that. But if they stay around, I'll simply—
That is great.
Yeah, I'll simply jot down a note about that and go right back to my meditation. That's my way of letting it go. And now I'm back. Okay. So that is,
I just asked Amma to help me remember it later.
hearing some people talking out there. I'm sorry you broke up, Lynn. Were you?
Susan asked for me, so sorry.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you very well. All I heard was sorry.
Right.
Is the transmission squirrely right now? I need some help. Should I go on? Do I need to repeat?
Fine. It's on my end.
Yeah, I can't understand. You're speaking gobbledygook on my computer.
Ray, it's not you, it's Lynn.
Oh, okay. Can I go on then? Or is there something I need to respond to? I need help from somebody out there.
Please
You can carry on.
Carry
I
on.
think you can
Okay.
go on.
I heard that. Okay, I heard that part. All right. Your posture, your eyes, your feet, your hands. Now, since I typically teach meditation in my office up until COVID, the client is sitting in a chair or is sitting on the couch. And I offer them, if they want to get in a position on the floor, with their legs crossed in some fashion, they're welcome to do that. Or they can remain sitting. Most like to remain sitting. So the key here, as far as, so we're going to talk about it as if we're all sitting. And first, I want to emphasize, if you have a physical condition that makes it difficult to do any of these guidances, then you do whatever's comfortable. That's most important. So posture. Your posture is relatively upright, if you can do that. You don't have your back ramrod straight, not necessary. Relatively upright. Why? Two reasons. Number one, it opens the breath channel. You get the full breath. If you're hunched over, you're crunching up the breath channels here. And secondly, if you're inclining a little bit, guess what? That's conducive to sleeping. Nothing wrong with sleeping, but sleeping ain't meditating. So in this case, we'd like you to learn how to meditate rather than learn how to put yourself to sleep, which is another important skill, by the way. Eyes. In this form of meditation, typically you have your eyes closed. Now, when I'm sitting with a client in person, I will always ask, are you comfortable closing your eyes in front of me here in this room? Because some people are not comfortable with their eyes closed with anybody in the room for various reasons. And I say, if you're not comfortable with your eyes closed, then please leave them open. Closing them just eliminates a set of distractions. So there's an in-between state. There's a Buddhist technique where you have your eyes partially open and you have your gaze on something in front of you. Okay, so that's another option. So that's the eyes. Feet. If you can, have your feet flat on the floor. If you don't want to be sitting where your legs are dangling and not touching the floor. You need to have your feet on the floor because that helps ground you and stabilize you. You can cross your ankles as long as both of your feet are touching. Hands. What do you do with your hands? Again, there are books written about hand gestures, so I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version to the nth degree here. One set of options that I've read about that I really like is that, and I'm holding my hands up just for you to see them. If you have your palms up, okay, then you put your palms down on your and rest them on your thighs. Palms up position opens you up to the environment, to what's out there, to the cosmos, to the greater force, if you have that kind of a belief. But you're being receptive. You're receptive to what's there, what's out there. Having your palms up facilitates that. Do the opposite. Turn your hands over, palms down, put those on your thighs. That promotes grounding, seatedness, connectedness to the earth. Some people don't feel grounded. They feel a little lightheaded and so forth. This can be very grounding for them, if you will. Or you can put your hands anywhere you want in between those two, as long as they're not clenching. You don't want to clench anything while you're meditating. Okay. Now, Alan Watts describes an interesting one, and I'm going to stand up here just so you can see my hands. He puts the left hand flat over the right hand palm, and then he has his thumbs touching each other. He said it's like holding a raw egg. And then he drops that right down below his navel, so his thumbs are basically right about where his navel is. And this is an interesting one that's kind of a little bit of both, open and touching. And again, I didn't mention this, in TM, we were taught not to have our hands touching because that closes you in. It closes you in. And I realize some people pray, for example, and obviously their hands are touching. So if having your hands touching works better for you, fine. But these are some of the options you have as far as hand position goes. After a while, this will become second nature. Once you settle on something here, it'll be second nature. I think that'll do it on seating posture, eyes, feet, hands. The next one is accommodations for disabilities, other special needs. We've mentioned that. Initially practicing silently while I demonstrate out loud alternative ways to repeat the mantra. So here's what we're going to do, and this is what I do with clients. I would like you to close your eyes if you're comfortable closing them, and I would like you to repeat the mantra piece silently. Now you, of course, could pick any other word if you want, but I'm going to, while you're repeating it silently, I'm going to start off by repeating the word mantra, the mantra piece out loud, because I'm going to illustrate to you a couple of different ways that I might consider repeating the mantra to give you a taste of that. And then I'll say, we'll both go silent for about a minute. Typically with clients, I'll go for 2 or 3 minutes, but for here, we'll just do 1 minute. And while I'm doing it, again, I'll throw out distractions. All right, so if you sit back or close your eyes, and I'm skimming through all the preparation part here. So here we go. Peace, 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 thought, peace, peace, noise, peace, 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 thought, 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 peace, 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 smell, peace, 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 noise, peace, peace, peace. You can go faster. Peace, 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 peace. You can go slower. Peace, peace, peace. You can go much slower. Peace, peace, peace. Let's continue for about a minute, minute and a half, and I'll tell you when it's time to stop. Take about another 10 seconds and then open your eyes when you're done. Okay. Now, if I'm sitting with a client, I would ask, what was your experience? Would you be willing to share your experience with me? The vast majority of clients say that they feel more rested, more calm than they did when they started. The vast majority, but not all. I don't know that we can do anything here about asking about that. We are going to be having you rate the meditations later. So I would have that dialogue with the client. Then I want to mention about getting sleepy or nodding out during the presentation. When I first started meditating, I found myself, this happening to me. I'd be meditating, I'd be going, what was happening? We collect tiredness in our bodies. And when you start meditating, you start letting go of that tiredness that's in your body. And it'll be a natural tendency to want to sleep, to nod out, particularly when you first start meditating, because it's been building up for a long time. So you can fight it, or you can just say, you know what, I'm going to go with it. Stop your meditating, lay back. You might find that you have a very deep sleep for like a minute or two, or 5 or 10. So if you're worried about something you got to do, then you might want to set a timer so you don't continue to worry yourself about it. Okay, but so now, along with this one, I want to mention a counseling session. I had a client come in who was very, very anxious. She always was, but even more so today. And I said, okay, well, let's meditate for 5 minutes before we get into the session. So we meditated for 5 minutes, and we stopped, and she said, now that I meditated, my mind is more relaxed, but my body still feels very tense. This then gets into the commentary that I just gave you. And this gets us into what I have described as the 4 stages of meditating that I describe at this time to clients. Now, these 4 stages are not empirically based. They're simply my very rough categorizing of 4 phases or stages of meditation. And I have clients that found these to be very helpful. So I'm going to briefly go through them. And again, all of this is in your handout. Phase 1, when you first start meditating, a given session, or meditating generally speaking, the first thing that happens is you let go of immediate stress. That's the first thing that goes. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said, our thoughts are simply stress being released. So let the thoughts go, let them happen. Hey, more stress going. So when you first start meditating, immediate stress starts being lifted and going. When you continue the meditation, once you get that flurry of all the immediate stress out, now you may be so stressed that immediate stuff goes on for 10 or 15 minutes, or it might go on for a minute or 30 seconds or a couple minutes. It happens. Then you next start letting go of the stress that's built up physically in our bodies. Once you let go of that immediate stress, you start letting go of the built-up stress in our bodies. If you continue to meditate and you let go of immediate stress, and then you let go of built-up stress in our bodies and in our brains, you get to a 3rd phase where you start adding peace or calmness into your body. You start adding peace or calmness. This is very powerful to get to this phase. Now, this is about as far as I am competent to teach meditation. I don't consider myself, I am not a sensei, and I do not have the qualifications or abilities to take people into the 4th phase, which is transcendence. All traditional forms of meditation talk about some stage of transcendence where you go beyond the physical confines of your body, where you are essentially connecting to the cosmos there. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said, this is a beautiful saying, TM helps us access that ocean of bliss that lies within each of us. That each of us has an ocean of bliss within. And meditation helps to access that ocean of bliss. And that's when you get to the 4th stage, you start dipping into that ocean of bliss, and you start being able to spend more time in that ocean of bliss. Is that so much different than Christians believing that God is inside of all of us? And if we pray well and lead a good Christian life and so forth and so on, eventually we can get in touch with God who dwells within us. So those are the 4 phases of meditation. Now, Osho, by the way, let me just read this, and it's in your handout. You just watch your mind as if the mind is nothing but a traffic of thoughts or a film, a movie passing on the TV screen. You are just a neutral observer. This is the discipline. If this discipline is complete, watching comes very easily, and watching is meditation. Through watchfulness, mind disappears, thoughts disappear, and that moment is the most blessed moment when you are fully awake and there's not a single thought, just a silent sky of your inner being. Now, this description is very much in the mindfulness track of meditation. Watching, observing. The next step, step 11, discussing timing. When to do, I call this strategic meditating. We're going to talk a little bit later about spot meditation. Spot meditation is something you do at the moment with something going on, where there's an escalation of some kind of emotions or issues and so forth, and you engage in a spot meditation to help quell that and become calm. We're talking now about dedicated or strategic meditation that you do hopefully day in and day out on a regular basis. What is the length? Is there?
I'm sorry, Dr. Scurfield, this is Tori. I work at the NASW.
Yes.
Lynn lost her internet.
Okay.
She's headed to the office right now. I know that there's a video that needs to be shown before the break.
Yeah.
She's headed to the office so that she can show the video. I didn't know if you wanted to take the break now and then she could show the video right after break.
What time is it?
It's 10:18. We had planned to take a break at 10:15.
Yes. Okay. That we need to do. Sure. This sounds like a good time to have a break.
Okay. All right. So I believe we're going to, sorry, I'm a little out of the loop. I think it's a 15-minute break.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to take a 15-minute break and then we'll reconvene, and Lynn should be on at the office with a video.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I don't know if you've ever heard of there's a general rule of 3s. You can last about 3 minutes without any breath before you die. You can go about 3 days without water. You can go about 3 weeks without food. That just shows you the dramatic difference in how essential breathing is to our every moment. The airplane instruction: put your own oxygen mask on first, and then help someone else. You're no good to anyone else if you're not getting adequate breathing. And that, I use that as a metaphor for people, for their life, actually. Oftentimes we let circumstances dictate our breathing rather than our breath being in control. For example, if you live in a home that's full of danger, anger, threat, I guarantee you this dramatically impacts on your breathing. You're going to walk around on eggshells. You're going to be not breathing very deeply, and you don't even realize it, that's going on. And this is what happens to people. We get impacted by the circumstances we're in. And so you want to reverse that and have your breath be in control. The beauty of the breath is that breath is always the present moment. There's no such thing as past breath or future breath. There's only now breath. So if you are anchored in your breathing, you are anchored in the present moment. And this is the moment to be in. Now in this light, I want to introduce you to 7-11 breathing. We're going to be doing this right now, and this is a dramatically different form of meditation than any other one that I know of. There might be others out there that are like it, but I'm not aware of them. In 7-11 breathing, it was developed by a guy named Mark Terrell out of England. Mark Terrell developed is breathing in. It goes like this. This means breathing in, this means breathing out. You breathe in 7, out 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's the meditation. No meditation is done fast. 7-11 is. And it can have dramatic impacts quickly. Had a client who walked in, she had chronic blood pressure problems. She went for a regular appointment, sat down, the nurse does her blood pressure, 170 over 140. The nurse said, you got to go to the ER right now. She said, can I try meditating for a few minutes and then redo my blood pressure? The nurse reluctantly agreed, came back 6 minutes later, retook her blood pressure, dropped 40 points, 6 minutes. And this lady was not much of a meditator. She'd only meditated several times using 7-11 over the course of a number of months. So it works dramatically and it works quickly. You need to note that the out count is longer than the in count. If there's one thing that you remember at all from this workshop and you forget everything else, remember this. If you breathe in, if you breathe out more than you breathe in, you can never have a panic attack. You can never have an anger outburst. Because breathing in feeds our emotions. It feeds them. Breathing out takes away the energy from them. It takes it away. It dramatically takes it away. So now 7-11, there's nothing magical about the number 7 and 11, but it's a guidance to start with. A number of clients find 11's too long. They start running out of breath. And you don't want to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, they equal pacing. So if 11's too long, change it. 7 and 10, 6 and 9, 5 and 8. I've had 3 people that had the opposite effect, impact. It was much too short, the 11 count. A police officer who pumped iron, he did something like 8 and 22. I had a lady who was a trained classical opera singer. She did 10 and 42 for her breathing. Vast majority of people, nah, maybe if 11 is not enough, they might go to 12 or 13, but that's about it. So we're going to practice this, and I will go through it with you again. We'll practice it, you with your eyes closed, me with my eyes open, but you can, 7-11 works either way. And I'll vary the speed a little bit, but you can only vary it so much. So we'll close our eyes and we'll start with the in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Go a little slower. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Continue for about a minute to a minute and a half, and I'll tell you when we're getting ready to stop, and make the speed and the count whatever feels comfortable for you. Take about another 10 or 15 seconds and then stop. Okay. A lot of people find 7-Eleven to be extremely helpful in not being bothered by distractions. The busyness of the 7-Eleven in a way drowns out distractions. And so it makes it easy to remain focused, and the rapid count makes it easy to remain focused. Some people find 7-Eleven too busy, and so they don't like it for that reason. One beauty of 7-Eleven is it can be a great segue from being very anxious to getting yourself into your regular meditation. That's a lot slower. In other words, if you're anxious or getting angry, you're already hyped up. So if you're already hyped up, it's an easy segue to start doing 7-Eleven. Start doing it immediately. Within a minute and a half or a minute or two, you're going to be de-escalating. And then if you wish, you can continue with 7-Eleven as your ongoing meditation for that time, or you can switch to mantra or some other form of meditation. Your choice. So that's 7-Eleven breathing. I will now mention that we are going to talk about opening up of awareness forms of meditation. My mind is going here because we didn't stop when I thought we were going to stop. The opening up of awareness. Sri Amit Ray said, life is a collection of moments. Mindfulness is beautification of the moments. Perhaps the most popular form of opening up of awareness meditation in the West is mindfulness. While Buddhist in origin, you don't have to be Buddhist to practice mindfulness. Now, because mindfulness workshops and books and everything are so commonplace here in the US, I'm going to spend just a little time on mindfulness and maybe give you hopefully maybe something about it that you might not have had much exposure to. Mindfulness, you are learning the skill of attending fully to an experience in this moment, a thought, an emotion, an action, a sensation. And you can do this any place, anytime. So classically, you aren't necessarily sitting down in a quiet room. You learn to do walking meditation. You learn to meditate mindfully while you're in the kitchen preparing food. And instead of being all caught up in being fast like Martha in the Martha and Mary scripture, you go with awareness of what you are doing in the kitchen. You go with awareness of it, and you witness it, you observe it without judging. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about dwelling happily in the present moment, and I'm going to read you out of Steps into Freedom, a brief thing here. And now this is not in your handout, so you just try to, if you would absorb listening to this. If you practice dwelling happily in the present moment, you will enjoy every moment of your life. As you walk to the kitchen or to the meditation hall, each step can make you happy. If you remain mindful while you clean the toilet, this is a hard one for me, you will see that cleaning the toilet is just as pleasant as practicing sitting meditation. Every act, every word, every look, every step of a monk or nun should be in mindfulness. Don't struggle, just be aware of each step and each breath, and you will have peace. Don't wait until you become a Dharma teacher. As a novice, you can be very happy. Thich Nhat Hanh. I am now going to read you some more from this book. If you're going to buy a book on mindfulness, I recommend this book. Stepping into Freedom, the subtitle, and it's in your handout, Introduction to Buddhist Monastic Training. Thich Nhat Hanh went back and translated 15th century guidance that was developed for training monk and nuns who were novices in training in a monastery. And then he also did some other things in the book that were more modern. But he describes what are called gathas, Gathas. And I have the definition in the handout, but I'm going to give you a little bit more here. Gathas are short verses to recite during daily activities to help us return to mindfulness. To meditate is to be aware of what's going on in our bodies, our feelings, our minds, the world. Dwelling in the present moment, we can see so many beauties and wonders right before our eyes. A child's smile, the sun rising, the autumn leaves. We can be happy just by being aware of what is in front of us. Practicing with a gatha can help us return to ourselves and to what is going on in the present moment. Now here's the instruction. It's helpful to memorize these gathas, a few at first, and more as you go on with the practice. As you silently recite the first line, you breathe in. As you silently recite the second line, you breathe out. The third line, you breathe in. The fourth line, you breathe out. When the gatha is finished, continue your activity, and you will find your mindfulness has increased. Thich Nhat Hanh uses the metaphor of when we drive, road signs help us find our way. And we keep seeing the last road sign until the next one appears. Practicing with gathas is the same way. When we practice well, the gathas are with us continuously and we live our whole day in awareness. So here goes. Sit back and I want you to close your eyes and I'm going to walk you through a waking up gatha. And again, the first line, breathe in, second line, now pause. Then second line, breathe out, pause, third line, breathe in, fourth line, breathe out. I will read it one time so you have a sense of what it is, and then I'll repeat it 2 times for you to be mindful of it. So here it is. Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live fully in each moment and to look at beings with eyes of compassion. Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live fully in each moment and to look at beings with eyes of compassion. Now just imagine if that were your morning, that was part of your morning routine as you wake up in the morning. And you did that every morning for numerous times. A second one, we'll stay with morning for the moment. Brushing your teeth. Again, close your eyes and I'll read it in and out and to give you the sense of it, and then we'll do it twice. Brushing my teeth and rinsing my mouth. I vow to speak purely and lovingly. When my mouth is fragrant with right speech, a flower blooms in the garden of my heart. Here we go. Brushing my teeth and rinsing my mouth. I vow to speak purely and lovingly. When my mouth is fragrant with right speech, a flower blooms in the garden of my heart. Brushing my teeth and rinsing my mouth. I vow to speak purely and lovingly. When my mouth is fragrant with right speech, a flower blooms in the garden of my heart. What if we recited that every time we brushed our teeth? Every time we brushed our teeth. And we thought about having our mouth be fragrant with right speech. And a flower blooming in our heart coming out through our mouth. I'll do one last one, which is obviously a modern one that Thich Nhat Hanh put together, using the telephone. Words can travel thousands of miles. May my words create mutual understanding and love. May they be as beautiful as gems, as lovely as flowers. Words can travel thousands of miles. May my words create mutual understanding and love. May they be as beautiful as gems, as lovely as flowers. Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm reminded, by the way, the subtitle of the book is An Introduction to Buddhist Monastic Training. Dr. Martin Luther King has a beautiful saying that I like to think about now and then and share with people. You do not have to climb all of the stairs at once. Start with the first step. He used this in reference to faith and people who were having some trouble with their faith. And of course, it could apply to many other things in life. You don't have to climb all the stairs at once. Start with the first steps. Now, that is not in the handout. Okay. You don't have to climb all the stairs at once. Just start with the first step. So mindfulness, you're filling your mind with awareness of whatever you're doing or observing. Walking, eating, sitting, yoga, body scans, etc. Now we're going to do a mindful breath awareness experiential. Settle yourself in your seat. Have your feet planted, relatively upright, your hands where you want them. In mindful breath awareness, what we are doing is simply observing our breath coming in and going out. Coming in and going out. We are a witness to our breathing. We do not try to modulate our breathing in any way. We don't try to make it faster or slower. We don't try to take in more breath or let out a little bit or let out a lot. We let our breath naturally come in and go out. You can use in through your nose and out through your mouth if you're able to breathe fully through your nose, or you can breathe in and out through both if you wish. We're going to take about 60 seconds simply being witnesses or observers of our own breathing. Take another 10 seconds or so and we'll stop. Okay. I would ask my client, what was your experience? Some clients find this to be difficult to do because they feel like they're too aware of distractions, particularly of thoughts. And they're not filling, if you will, the neural pathway, the brain pathways, as you would with mantra, where the mantra is filling up the same neural pathway that other thoughts would be on. But here you're not filling that with other thoughts. And others find this, of course, to be very restful. And this is basically the strategy for being mindful of pretty much anything, anywhere, anytime that you would wish to practice mindfulness. Now, breath and panic attacks. I've already gone through this a little bit, but I just want to mention one of the worst advice you can give someone. Take a deep breath. That's only half of the frickin' equation. If you just simply take a deep breath, You're feeding your emotions. You're feeding them. You need to breathe out more than you breathe in. Now, to this end, I use a 10-point scale. I've taken Wolpe's SUD scale, some subjective units of distress scale that he developed back when he did systematic desensitization. And I use a 10-point scale. One, if the client's main issue is anxiety, because of course it could be anger, etc., but we'll take anxiety. On a scale of 1 to 10, client, 1 being there's almost an absence of anxiety. 10, your anxiety is as bad as it could possibly be. What would a 10 look like to you? Most clients would say that would be a panic attack. People with anger issues would say that would be where they explode physically onto an inanimate object or at someone, for example. Okay, so there's a 1, there's a 10. What is your baseline of anxiety? More days than not, more often than not. Where are you on the 1 to 10 scale with your anxiety? So the person subjectively obviously picks something. Most clients that I have pick anywhere from a 4 to a 6 or 7. And then we'll talk about that. If your baseline is like a 7, you don't have a lot of wiggle room. You start getting escalating, then you've already lost control. So a key here is to lower your baseline. All of us, practically all of us, maybe there's one person in 1,000 that wouldn't benefit from a lower baseline of anxiety, but practically all of us would benefit from lowering our anxiety baseline. So I need you to pay attention to what you look like physically, attitudinally, breathing wise, when you're at baseline. If you become familiar with your baseline, then you can become aware when you start to escalate. Then you can intervene. 7-Eleven being a wonderful way to intervene, or some other meditation. Intervene to arrest the escalation. At the very least, you can stop the escalating. If you continue it enough, you'll be able to ratchet it back down some. Eventually, if you do enough dedicated meditating, you can lower your baseline. Spot meditating doesn't lower your baseline, but it helps you deal with immediate stress where your level of emotion has become aggravated and exaggerated. You can bring it back closer to baseline, but you're not going to lower baseline with spot meditation. It's to deal with immediate stuff and help to put out the flames, if you will. So, hybrid combination of meditation forms. This is the third type of meditation I introduce clients to. In the first session that we do meditating, I introduce them to mantra and to 7-Eleven to give them 2 contrasting ways. Then maybe the next time we meet, or maybe a few times down the road after we meet, I'll introduce a third one. And the third one would be the mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation is the third one that I introduced. Then we'll come at that same session or another session, I'll introduce them to breath counting hybrid with your mantra. So it's a mantra hybrid, mantra breath hybrid. So it goes something like this. Let's say that your mantra is peace. This is in and out. I'll go in 3 and out 5, just as an example. Peace, 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 peace. Let's close our eyes. We're going to practice hybrid, mantra and breath count. I will say it out loud, and I use 3 and 5. You could make it 2 and 4, 3 and 4, etc. We'll start with the in breath. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, 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 peace. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, 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 peace. Continue at your own speed and numbering for about a minute. Take another 10 seconds or so and then stop. Okay. I would ask a client now, what was your experience with this form of meditation? I might mention that some people who had difficulty with distractions doing a regular mantra found it easier to do the mantra synced with your breath count. It's quite natural because you're focusing on not just mantra, you're focusing on mantra, you're focusing on breath, and you're focusing on a count. So you're having a triumvirate, if you will, of focal points of attention. So again, that doesn't leave a whole lot of room then for other stuff to intrude. And so in any case, that's hybrid with mantra and breath count. I've, again, one of the most common excuses people give for not meditating, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to meditate. Ajahn Amaro, this is in your handout, says, if you have time to breathe, you have time to meditate. You breathe when you walk. You breathe when you stand. You breathe when you lie down. Many meditation masters speak about time and being too busy. Zen proverb, you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes a day, unless you're too busy. Then you should sit for an hour. And Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, if you're too busy to meditate twice a day, you're just too busy. And again, there's all kind of advice about how long you should meditate, and I would leave you to that decision based upon the type of meditation you're doing and the guidance that comes with that type of meditation. I would do it at least for a couple of minutes, of course, and hopefully you might get a practice going where you're at 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said, what you put attention on grows in your life. What you put attention on grows in your life. And I have found this to be a central theme that clients resonate with. Meditation helps you take that attention from negativity over to positivity. Meditation helps you if you're having an intrusive traumatic thought. You start meditating, start doing your mantra, maybe do it out loud, maybe say it loudly. You say your mantra loudly, peace, 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 and that will take center stage, and that intrusive imagery coming from the trauma will fade. It will, once you learn how to meditate. And again, Fritz Perls, because it's such a profound statement, I want to repeat it. Anxiety is the gap between the now and the then. Anxiety is the gap between the now and the then. And we want to be in the now, so we aren't with the gap. So Gary Mack, Mind Jim, said, fear lives in the future. There's a parable about a monk, a Shaolin monk who was traveling in a horse-drawn wagon with a companion. They were going to this distant village. It was about a 10-hour ride in this horse-drawn wagon, and to face this really, really dangerous situation that they were going to face some angry people there. And his companion got up and sat next to the driver, and the monk got in the back, and the companion was not a monk. They're driving along. All of a sudden, the companion hears the sound of a flute playing. He turns around, there's the monk, half reclined, playing this beautiful, gentle song on the flute, melody on the flute. The companion turns around, he goes back to thinking about what's going to be happening and getting himself pumped up, and finally he can't take it anymore. He turns around and says, how can you lie there playing that flute when you know the danger we are going to be facing in several hours from now? The monk stops playing for a moment, looks at his companion and said, will worrying about it make the danger any shorter? Excuse me, well, I blew it right there. Will worrying about it make the danger any less? And will worrying about it make the journey any shorter? Well, the answer is actually, it'll elongate, it'll make both worse. If you're worried and you're preoccupied with that and saturated with that, all the while before you get to wherever the destination is, once you get there, you're going to be discombobulated. And the journey's going to seem like it's taking 3 or 5 or 10 times as long as it normally does. So that's the power of being now, in this moment. We could all be more like the Shaolin monk. By the way, my wife sat in on it, my last training that I did for the first time, and heard me give this parable, and she said, now I understand why when we have tornado watches and tornado warnings, you act like nothing is going on and you just are hanging loose there, and we've got this warning going on, and my wife's rushing around trying to get ready for it. And I confess, it isn't here yet. It's not here yet. And it may never come. So.
You wanted me to give you a 11:15 warning.
Okay, 11:15, all right. Good, I'm actually got back on track here. I was trying to speed it up a little bit because I had gotten behind. Great. I want to mention external stimuli to enhance meditating. I do it the old-fashioned way, just me and meditating. The only external device I use is literally maybe a year ago, I started using a timer for my 20-minute meditation. I set it for 21 minutes. I then take about a minute to do my breathing, centering breath, calming, and then I do my 20-minute meditation. Before then, I didn't use a timer at all, and I would just check the time now and then. Of course, a lot of people use apps. There are all kinds of apps out there. And by the way, if you have a favorite app, if you can put it on the chat as a comment, that would be something that other people could benefit from. A couple of the apps that I have had clients rave about to me are Calm, C-A-L-M, which also is calm, meditate, sleep, relax, breathe, and breathe to relax. Breathe and the number 2 and relax. And there are several others that get high ratings. Headspace is an example of that. So if apps facilitate your meditating, go for it. Again, I do it the old-fashioned way. Spot meditation, outside of dedicated strategic sit-down meditating. Sakshi Chitana said, enjoy the way as much as the destination. Osho, the West has made people too time conscious, not knowing where they're going, but speeding to get there because time is short. Well, a full-length meditation also is not always practical. And this is where a tactical or spot meditation can be very helpful. In my book, I give a number of clinical examples of this, both for post-traumatic stress disorder cases and for people dealing with everyday issues and stresses. It can be used in both situations. And let me give an example. Jack was a businessman that came in because he was very anxious. And we started talking, and he said, you know, Ray, what really gets to me is Gulfport, Mississippi, has two main roads that intersect. The two main roads are Highway 49 and Highway 90. And there's a railroad track that goes across Highway 49 and another one that goes across Highway 90 within a quarter of a mile of each other. Invariably, at different times during the day, Jack had several businesses in the Gulfport downtown area, and he'd be zooming from one to the other because he had something to do with the other business. Invariably, as he's driving down Highway 49, ding, 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 ding. What does Jack do? Oh, you son. How long is this train? Look at the train isn't even here yet, and they put the damn thing came down. I'm going to be late. I'm already late. All the while that's down. All the while the train is approaching, Jack is working himself into a lather. The train starting to pass by. What's Jack doing? He's continuing. And he's cussing and moaning and waiting for the end of the train. Finally, the train passes. Of course, the gate doesn't go up immediately. Then finally the gate goes up. He goes, and he gets in it and he zooms on the accelerator and he takes off. Jack. You need to treat that railroad crossing with the gate coming down as an opportunity. You have just been given the gift of an opportunity to meditate in the middle of your frenetic, busy day. As soon as you start seeing the red light going on, and then you see the arm coming down, start meditating with your eyes open. Jack started doing peace, peace, peace. The cars are going by. Peace, 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 all the time. When it goes back up, when he's ready to go, he has become calm. However, then he would say, oh, I'm late, even later, and he would step on the gas and take off. Jack, you now have a second opportunity. Between the time the gate goes up and you get to your destination, meditate. Eyes open as you're driving along. I personally have found 7-Eleven to be an incredible, I call it my driving and dentist meditation. You're driving along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Instead of thinking about the meeting that he's late for, blah, 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 he's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All the way there. And when you stop the car, you continue. You continue walking in, going in, sitting down at the meeting. It's an opportunity. Treat it as an opportunity. The dentist. I don't know about you, I hate going to the dentist. And my nephew, who's really a wonderful guy, he's my dentist. And I don't want to go to the dentist. So when it's time for the dentist that day, I get in my car, I'm doing 7-Eleven. Because otherwise, I'm forecasting ahead what's going to happen when I get to the dental office. You know exactly what's going to happen. You're going to go into the waiting room. You're going to give your name. You're going to sit down there and wait. Your name's called. You're going to walk back there. You're going to put you in this room. You're going to leave the room empty. You can sit there with your mind going a mile a minute. And pretty soon the dental hygienist comes in. She starts doing her thing. getting in there, getting all that tartar out and doing all that. And then she's done, and then you're waiting for the dentist to come in and do his thing with those implements of torture that he has. And all this time, what are you doing? What are you putting your attention on? What you put attention on grows in your life. As I walk from the waiting room back to the dental office, examining room, I'm doing 7-Eleven silently. I sit down in the chair, I sit back, I'm doing 7-Eleven, eyes closed or open. My hands, I want to be very careful. My hands aren't clenching onto the side of the chair. My legs aren't, like ramrod tree trunks. Relax my body. What you put attention on. 7-Eleven. The dental hygienist comes in. Hi, she always wants to make a little chatter. I make the chatter. As soon as the chatter stops, I'm back to 7-Eleven. All the time she's doing her thing. Rinsing water out of my mouth. You name it. I'm still doing 7-Eleven. I do it all the way through the dentist getting in there, whatever the dentist does, and getting up and walking out the door. That's an example of spot meditation. So because of, I'll just mention one more. We don't have a lot of time left. This is something wonderful to do when you're stuck somewhere where someone's talking and you don't want to be there. Like being in that staff meeting. I mean, how many of you have ever been in a staff meeting that's actually productive and stimulating and dynamic? I mean, that's a rare breed. So you get into the staff meeting, whether it's virtual or these days or in person. Instead of sitting there getting all perturbed at the inane stuff that's being gone over and the boring stuff and that you're being told and everything, start meditating while you're sitting there. You're still aware of what's going on. And if you get called upon, you can respond. Otherwise, no one knows. You're calming yourself in the middle of this inane meeting that's going on. You could even do this if you're with somebody on the telephone who loves to talk. And you can't get a word in edgewise. Well, and you don't feel comfortable intervening. Or if you do intervene, they still talk forever. If you're not going to hang up, meditate. You'll be aware when they stop and take a breath and might even ask you a question. So, and you can do this almost anywhere, anytime, once you develop the skill. Once you develop the skill. So, and as essentially, spot meditation puts out the fires, gets it down to an ember, or even puts out the ember. And the strategic meditation helps you lower your baseline. Be here in the moment, now, and the next moment, and the next. I'm skipping ahead to meditation and prayer. For people who are very religious, oftentimes they get very concerned, is the meditation is going to mess up my prayer, or you're trying to stick some meditation into the middle of my prayer routine. No, we're not. They can complement each other in two ways. One client who was a Southern Baptist, as a lot of my clients are, working and living in Mississippi, came in and he said, Ray, I have a morning prayer routine that I do. I pray for about 15 minutes, but I haven't been able to concentrate on it too well. It hasn't been going as well as I would like it to go. I said, well, have you tried meditating before you start your prayer? No. Well, why don't you tack your meditation on to the front end of your prayer? Do your mantra meditation for 10 minutes. In his case, his mantra, I believe, was Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, being very Christian. So do your mantra for 10 minutes. That will lower you on the 1 to 10 scale, get you calmer, and then you segue into your prayer. And you're in a much calmer state as you start your prayer. We haven't changed anything about what he does when he's praying, words or anything else. We're simply getting him into a quieter, more relaxed space at the beginning of his meditation, of his prayer. So the second way that meditation can have a profound impact on prayer is you apply meditation principles about distractions and maintaining your focus. You apply those to how you pray. So as you're praying, you become aware of distractions, as we all have distractions when we're praying, thoughts, sounds, smells, whatever. You gently come back to your prayer words. Remember the TM guidance. Neutral awareness of distractions, gently return to your mantra. In this case, neutral awareness of distractions, gently return to my prayer words or to my prayer. Distraction, gently return. Distraction, gently return. You are now essentially harnessing the power of meditation to your prayer. It amplifies the impact of your prayer because you are now doing your prayer, each word you are doing in this moment, and you're not changing anything about the content of the prayer. When I explain this to people who are very religious, most of them are able to then do one of these two things as a way to complement their prayer life. If they still feel squirrely about it, this Far East Hindu Buddhist thing, then I don't push it. We don't push it. Madison Taylor, and her first name is spelled M-A-D, man, it's in my book. I can never remember how to spell her name because it's unusual. And I'm going to get to it sooner or later. M-A-D-I-S-Y-N, M-A-D-I-S-Y-N. This is in your handout. She is a co-originator of a website called Daily Om, O-H-M. She talks about meditation and prayer and meditation being like the crest of a wave and it's hollow. The crest of a wave and it's hollow. And just to read the bottom line from this, she has a much longer, eloquent description, and this is in your handout. Meditation and prayer are natural complements to one another. They make way one for the other, just as the crest of a wave, this part of the wave, gives way to the hollow, the open part that's under the wave. An interplay between reaching out and receiving. There are times when we need to reach out and express ourselves, fully exorcising our insides, getting our insides out. And there are times when we are empty, ready to rest in quiet receiving. When we allow ourselves to do both, we begin to have a true conversation with the universe. That's Madison Taylor. Let me see, are we down to 30 minutes, I believe? Yes. Okay.
Yes, we have 30 minutes.
Okay. Post-traumatic applications of meditation strategies. That's a workshop unto itself. In my book, I have several chapters devoted to it. I want to just emphasize a couple of points. Number one, when you're repeating a mantra, your mantra is filling the same neural pathway that any other thought would occupy. So if you're filling it with your mantra, you're making it very hard for post-traumatic intrusive memories and thoughts to come down that same pathway. Or any other meditation focus that you're having, you're making it hard for anything else to be there. And I oftentimes tell people, repeat your mantra, repeat your meditation out loud, and say it loudly if you have to when you've got some loud intrusive stuff coming in. And you'll get to put your attention here and not there. There's an African, a Ghanaian proverb, wood already touched by fire is not hard to set alight. And there's another African proverb, beautiful proverb. The gift is next to the wound. There's an alternate translation. The blessing is next to the wound. Well, exposure therapies, most of them don't realize what they're doing here in this regard, but they are essentially resonating with these two proverbs, that the healing somehow involves getting close to the wound and helping the healing to continue. You can't block off the wound and expect it to heal. Now, there's a lot of controversy about exposure therapies, and I just simply want to say for right here, I've been doing PTSD treatment ever since I was on a psychiatric team in Vietnam, and there are many different ways to help people heal. It starts with you being an expert and comfortable in whatever way you are using with clients. It starts there. Prolonged exposure therapy, a PE, is a therapy that's gotten a lot of airplay in the Veterans Administration. And I have developed a whole protocol for using systematic desensitization integrated with meditation as the treatment for PTSD. And I have case examples in my book, and I lay it out in some detail. Some of it is written here in the handout for you. The basic point is that a person starts exposing themselves to a least provocative experience that's reminding them of their trauma, a least provocative. You help them learn how to calm themselves to that least provocative exposure through meditation. And then you move to the next experience and you help them learn how to calm to that experience. They start mastering the calmness. So then when they have those re-experiencing symptoms, they no longer are re-experiencing them frenetically, dramatically. They have learned to respond with calmness to the traumatic symptom. Responding with calmness. And all I can say is it's helped a number of clients that I've been working with. I want to read a beautiful parable by Sri Lamit Ray. And this could be a theme song for any trauma survivor. A bird is safe in its nest, but that is not what its wings are for. A bird is safe in its nest, but that's not what its wings are for. Essentially, through meditation, you help a person learn how to start feeling and leaving the nest and maintaining that safeness feeling that they have in the nest, how to start taking that with them out into the world beyond the nest and doing it incrementally so that they learn how to master it at each step and not get overwhelmed. Viktor Frankl, if you've never read Man's Search for Meaning and you're interested in trauma, you want to read Man's Search for Meaning, at least the first half of the book, which is Viktor Frankl's description of how he survived a concentration camp. He was a Jewish psychiatrist, and one of his statements, again, this is in your handout, there is a space between a stimulus that we are exposed to and what our response to that stimulus is. It is in that space between stimulus and response where we have the freedom and the ability to choose what our response is. And it is within our response that we find growth. So a trauma survivor, the stimulus is some traumatic remembering trigger. And then we have an immediate response. Traumatic trigger, we have an immediate response. It's finding that gap in between the stimulus and the response. And in that gap, we grow that gap. And you can grow that gap. One way to grow that gap is through meditation. So it becomes very powerful and effective in helping us to be able to intervene between the stimulus and the response. Ralph Waldo Emerson, back in 1888, said, "Always do what you were afraid to do." If trauma survivors do not learn how to do that which they are afraid to do, they will be prisoners forever. Prisoners forever. They will be the bird that has to stay in the nest and can't leave the nest. On the other hand, I am very concerned about treatment approaches that re-traumatize the person or traumatize the person even more as part of the healing process. So, meditation research and efficacy. There are over 1,000 research studies on meditation, over 1,000. And they're especially on mindfulness and TM, Transcendental Meditation. Now, there is scientific criticism of a number of the studies because a number of these studies basically are done by people who are meditation proponents, and they aren't set up in a very good way from a scientific design perspective. And for example, they might have small numbers. There's a lack of a randomized control. There's a lack of being able to rule out other factors. In other words, what you're seeing as an outcome, you're attributing it to the meditation. Well, maybe it's attributed to something else, but you aren't accounting for those factors. And so even with all of that, though, the findings are remarkably, consistently positive. And they're in areas of physiology and positive physiological brain changes. And I'm not a brain guy, but a couple of them are. Number one, meditation helps to reduce the amygdala, the flight or fight center of the brain. It gets tamped down to where you have lower exaggerated responses. The emotional reactivity is reduced. Now, one that is not in the handout is the research on the vagus nerve, the VAGUS nerve, which has found also that it helps to reduce, the meditation has an impact on the vagus nerve and helps to reduce not only depression, but also has an impact on managing stress and anxiety. And again, it allows us to not go into an exaggerated fight or flight response mode. And so then no wonder it's helpful then for people with PTSD, because people with PTSD by definition have exaggerated anxiety. And also, amazingly, there's research to show that meditation enhances the prefrontal cortical thickness of the brain. This is in the handout, now that's a mouthful. Enhances the prefrontal cortical thickness of the brain and neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to adapt. So this is the executive function part of the brain, that it actually helps that part of the brain grow. And there are many, many other advantages written up. Now, there's a controversial finding that no one else that I know of has tried to prove, but TM has done at least 40 or 50 research studies on, and it's called the Maharishi effect or the 1% effect. And it's also called super radiance effect. And it goes something like this. If 1% of a community meditates, becomes meditators, the benefits accrue to the whole community. Now, try to imagine how to prove that in a research study, but TM has done like 50 studies on it. The Maharishi Mahesh Yogi uses the metaphor of how a tiny little lighted bulb can bring light to an entire darkened room. My wife is like this. She is a beacon of light. When we go somewhere and people see us, first thing they do is, Margaret, they light up and they go over and they hug her and then, oh, hi, Ray. But they light up around Margaret. Margaret brings this out in people, amazingly. No wonder I married her. I'm not a stupid guy, okay? She brings it out. She brings out the Maharishi effect before I ever knew what the Maharishi effect was. Well, I want to describe to you what Thich Nhat Hanh, and again, this would not be in your handout because I'm going to read it from his book. And practicing for others. Now, there's about 10 lines here, but it's really important. And now he's talking, this is a book that was for Buddhist monks and nuns in training. So he's talking to them, but listen to the parallel. Your practice of solidity and happiness already has a big effect on your family and society. Wearing the robe of a monk or a nun, taking each step in freedom, sitting solidly, you help your family become more stable. The most precious gift you can offer your family is your own peace and insight. I repeat, the most precious gift you can offer your family is your own peace and insight. When you have spiritual maturity and the capacity to resolve difficulties, you naturally become a spiritual guide for your family. If you can offer methods for them to practice, I repeat, if you can offer methods for them to practice, that is positive. But just seeing you as a monk or a nun who is solid and free, who walks with ease, will give them faith and some stability. You become a monk or a nun, not for your sake alone, but for all your ancestors, for your family, for your descendants, and for the whole of society. When a society has one person in it who is happy because of the practice, the quality of life in that society increases. Isn't that beautiful? So Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist monk, basically is saying what Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who has a Hindu mantra background, was saying with the 1% effect. I do want to mention that about issues and cautions. There's a remarkable rarity of cautions about negative impact of meditation. It's absolutely stunning how few negative you will find in any reputable written document. It's remarkable how few. So the most common shortcoming that I have found through my clinical experiences is clients telling me, it's just not working. It's just not working. So there's an absence of impact rather than there's a negativity of impact. And usually when we get into it, they haven't taken the regular time and effort to do it, or they're not doing some things quite the way they could be doing them, or perhaps they need to do a different form of meditation. So again, though, it's important not to jump around from one meditation to another. You need to eventually settle on one. Now, in an extremely, even smaller number of clients, not of clients, but of, well, yes, of clients and in the literature, there are additional issues that have been mentioned. Persons with active psychosis symptoms. You want to be careful. I've read Rick Heller interviews a psychiatrist who says even doing a brief meditation with someone with active psychosis is okay if they only meditate for a couple or 3 minutes. No issues. Never had an issue. The problem is we can't control how long someone meditates when they're not in our session. This is both the good and the bad of it. I introduced a client to mantra meditation several years ago, and I hadn't realized, and she had not given me this information, or I was just blind to it. I didn't have any background on her, that she had a much earlier history of multiple personality disorder, dissociative personality, and she looked very intact when we were talking. And I gave it to her after some meditation after a couple of sessions. Well, what happened is she started meditating and she wouldn't stop. She didn't have a car. She would start walking and meditate, walking for hours, 3, 4, and 5 hours. So there was an exacerbation of her psychotic symptoms. On the other hand, Herbert Benson, the relaxation response, said he never saw or never heard from anyone ever that anyone had a negative impact when they meditated 20 minutes or less. He never heard of an adverse reaction, ever. So there is one other place where there has been some problems come up, but the issue then becomes, is this because these persons were predisposed? And that is going on intensive retreats all day long, where you're meditating 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours a day. It's not unusual that a couple of people at some of these types of gatherings will have negative experiences, almost psychotic-like experiences, an onset of incredible violent or bothersome emotions. In reading about them, it appeared that these people were very troubled, and they came to the meditation, and the meditation brought out that which was within them. But these were not scientifically measured. So I would only say, I believe that if we preach moderation, like meditation preaches anyway, and we preach moderation in our meditation, the chances of there being a negative effect are incredibly slim, incredibly slim. The worst I've heard, besides the one I just mentioned, is people maybe getting some headaches. And typically I find out they're trying too hard. You know, they're concentrating too hard. They're not being gentle and easy. Now, a partner might disapprove of meditation or not know what it's all about. So if you're going to start meditating, you want to bring your partner in on it, what you're doing and what's going on and all that. And well, I had one client who wanted to keep it a secret because he learned that when he went home and his partner started talking and talking and talking, because when he walked in the door, she was stuck with the kids all day long, and he came home, she wanted an ear. She started bending his ear, and he's sitting there. He wanted to go and have a quiet space. So he starts meditating while she's talking and lets her talk. And he doesn't get all hot and bothered about it because he's meditating and he can still hear her. When I was meditating before I met my wife, and when we first came home, I said, "Hi, Margaret." Walked in the bedroom, closed the door, and did my 20-minute afternoon meditation. This did not go over well with Margaret. And I realized I had better meditate before I get home, or I'm going to meditate after I'm home for several hours. So I would generally meditate at work in the late afternoon. I had my own office. At the end of the day, I could meditate. Or on the drive home, we lived in Topanga Canyon in Los Angeles, and I would stop along the Pacific Coast Highway next to the ocean. I would do a 20-minute meditation. That gave me the additional benefit. When I got into the house, I was in a calm space, much calmer than if I had just did this and got home. So obviously, your partner is important in all of this. Overall, I have found about 20 to 25% of the clients that I see end up engaging in some form of meditation and find it very beneficial. And again, I've had one client in all these years that has reported anything negative. And so this brings us to, if your meditation is not working, what's going on? Well, please don't blame the meditation. Meditation has been around for thousands of years. This is in your handout. Do not doubt its possibilities because of the simplicity of its method, that is meditation. If you cannot find the truth right where you are, where else do you expect to wander in finding it? That's from Senzaki and McCandless, 1953. By the way, 1953, when I look for books on medication, I tend to like to meditation. I tend to want to find books that are older, as opposed to a lot of the things you want to find the newest book. Well, in meditation, I want to find the older books. Because they are sources of incredible knowledge, and they're not geared to, oh, what's the greatest thing of sliced bread to do today? You know, what's the newest iteration? You know, they're giving you the purity of one of the traditional forms oftentimes. Now, what happens, again, if you get to this point where things aren't working too well with your meditation? I want to briefly read from Thich Nhat Hanh, and as I have, and this is in the book chapter in my book as well. And he says, if you allow the days and months to pass without immersing yourself fully in the practice of your meditation, it's a waste of your life. When a farmer tries a new kind of seed, fertilizer, or method of cultivation, and it does not yield good results, he will change the seed, the fertilizer, or the method. If you practice for 3 or 6 months without any transformation, something is wrong in the method of your practice. Go to your teacher or your friend, talk to them. Find ways to practice that are more suitable for you. I've seen people practice for more than 30 years without changing their way of living or their habit energies. What a waste for them and for us also. In closing, well, what makes a good meditator? Alan Locos says, the one who meditates. That's what makes you a good meditator. You can't be a good meditator if you don't meditate. Now, obviously, there's a little more to it than that, and he said that tongue in cheek, but that is the bottom line. I have found that meditation has these 5 qualities that I don't know of anything else that has these 5 qualities. If you know of it, let me know. Meditation is available, and this is in the handout, is available 24/7. It's compatible, to my knowledge, with any other therapy or counseling intervention. Compatible with any. Almost all forms of meditation do not require another person to facilitate its being practiced, at least once you get introduced and get the basics down. It is absolutely free. And finally, meditation is effective in helping us to more fully savor life in the present moment and enhance our experience of the profound interconnectedness that exists among us all. I don't know of any other thing that I could come up with that has those 5 qualities. Again, let me know if you know of some. I would love to know about it. In fact, put them on the chat list there so I can check it out. I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to close. We have a choice of doing a video or doing another type of meditation. And Lynn, should I leave it up to you which one we go with? I have an alternate nostril breathing, which is a wonderful form of breath meditation.
I'm going to recommend that you do the last type of meditation. And what I can do is I can share the link of the video that we had wanted to show beforehand when I send out the evaluation, so people can watch it on their own time.
Thank you.
Okay.
There actually was a second meditation that I had film that I had originally wanted to show, and I would like to hype it for the moment by the same artist, Bob Sima, that you're going to send that link, and it's called Meditation is the Medication. And the rest of it is to cure the illusion of a separation between us, between peoples. And I didn't take a chance to talk to you today about metta meditation, which I regret that we didn't do, which is loving kindness meditation. I discuss it in my book in some detail. It is a wonderful form of meditation, and it helps us to develop compassion and love for others as well as for ourselves. So I want to close with alternate nostril breathing. And there are 2 basic forms. There's alternate nostril breathing and there's rapid alternate nostril breathing. We're going to do alternate nostril breathing. So if you get into your meditation position, what we do is you end up covering one of your nostrils and having an in and out breath through the other nostril. Then you cover the other nostril and do the opposite. And so here's how it's going to go. And first of all, you need to clear your nostrils if you're going to do this. If you happen to have a little phlegm or anything in there, you might want to blow it out now. That's always helpful. And if you've got serious deviated septum or serious nasal congestion, you may find this difficult, and or it may blow things out a little bit for you. So here we go. So we're going to start with exhaling and inhaling through both of our nostrils. So exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Now, gently, lightly place your right thumb on your right nostril. Your right thumb on your right nostril, gently seal your nostril. Now exhale and inhale slowly through your left nostril. Do this a couple of times. We'll do it 2 times. Then we switch. Lightly put a finger on your left nostril, sealing it while removing your right thumb, and then breathe out gently back and forth through your right nostril. Do that 2 times. Now we'll go back. In through the left nostril, out through the left nostril. Cover, in through the right nostril, out through the right nostril. Do this for about a minute and we'll do it silently without any talking. Just take another 10 seconds or so and stop. Okay. Most people find this very calming and relaxing. I have read that this seems to promote right brain, left brain interaction and functioning. There's also a rapid form of it, which is a little harder to do, and it's stimulating. And it goes something like this. You can practice that one, and that is stimulating. Let me stop there. I guess we got a couple minutes left. Lynn, I guess you wanted to, did you want to do the last poll now?
I can do the last poll.
Or people can do that afterwards? I don't know. Well, I don't have the alternate nostril breathing on that poll, unfortunately. I didn't realize I was going to squeeze time in for it. But anyway, it's not on there. But the other
Well, there you go.
yeah.
All the different meditation forms.
Yeah.
Take a second to.
And we have, there should be a 5. Oh, I see you did it simply. You liked it? Just
You can check. I think you can check more than one.
Yeah, okay. And you could add to your chat, you could add if you really liked if you really liked an alternate nostril breathing or not. Do we still have a couple minutes left, or are you
Well,
done?
we have 1 minute left and I need to talk about CEUs one more time.
Okay, all right.
Oh, it's saying that people are saying that they can only choose one. I thought I had set it up as multiple.
Yeah, okay, well.
Sorry, you gotta do one, pick one.
Sorry, yeah, originally I was hoping that people could rate each one on a 1 to 5 scale. 1, you really liked it, to 5, you really disliked it.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
So,
I'm gonna end the polling. So if you're, oh, people are switching around their answers. That's
yeah.
funny. Submit your poll.
I would hope you found at least one and more than one to be something you want to continue to check out.
Yeah, people are saying, I like them all.
And by the way, I apologize. The one shortcoming of not being in person is obviously we miss the give and take. And I know a number of you are identified yourselves as being adept or advanced meditators. And I'm sure you have a lot of wisdom and perhaps differing viewpoints that could have been shared. And I apologize that we haven't had that as part of this. You've basically been hearing me nonstop. So I hope you're not too traumatized by it.
So thank you very much. And just as a reminder, you will be getting the evaluation in your email very soon. if you would like to stay on for a couple minutes, Ray, I think we can stay on for a couple minutes. But otherwise, it says it in the email, but you will be sending it to your evaluation to Tori, not to me. And then she will be sending you your certificate. So thank you all for joining us. And I will say one more thing, just because we've gotten so many calls and emails about it. Yes, we are going to have a suicide prevention training coming up on September 23rd. The announcement should go out. I know that many people are concerned about getting their suicide prevention CEU, so stay tuned. So let's stay on. If you want to stay on for a couple minutes to ask questions, otherwise you are free to end your Zoom. It'll be a little red box on the bottom that says end. I'm going to save the chat. Right, could you resend me the
other video?
The video? Yeah,
Sure.
something's happened between email at home and here and everything, so
Okay.
I want to make sure I have the right one. Just resend the email that you sent me. So
And the one with meditations and medication has a brief insert in there of Martin Luther King, and
Right.
which is part of the message of that particular video about meditation is the medication to cure the illusion of a separation between us.
So I'm gonna stop talking. So anybody who wants to take themselves off of mute and ask questions, go right ahead.
I just have a quick question. Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, first of all, I just want to comment too that I'm also a TM meditator, and we share a mantra, which is interesting. And I've never spoken mine out loud because I thought I wasn't supposed to, but I share a mantra with you, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, but a question I had, I really like the 7-Eleven, and like I think I'm going to teach that to my kids. My pace tends to be slow. Do you find that it generally is better to be slow with people, or does it depend on the person, whether like what the pace is? Like a fast count or a slow count?
quite frankly, I've never heard of anyone doing 7-Eleven slowly.
Oh.
It's meant to be fast. That's why it's 7 and 11. Most people can't do it slowly because
Okay.
they can't get 11 out. So it's meant to be fast. I have no idea if doing it slowly would dilute the impact or not. I would say try it on yourself first and see. I tried both ways. Even though you're slow paced, try doing it. Please not try, do it fast several times and as opposed to slow. Because that's uncharted territory. So, and by the way, when I gave my mantra meditation out at a previous workshop, I had a woman come on who had the very same mantra as well.
Really?
That's really interesting considering there are over 20,000 mantras in the Vedic scripture.
Are there really?
Yes, I have read from some ex-TM teachers that there basically was a pool of about 20 mantras that most TM teachers were instructed to take from to give out the mantras, but I don't know that for a fact. Anyway, sorry about that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for the workshop.
Thank you.
Ray, I have found with using the breathing techniques to help people relax so that they can get into the meditation. The reason I have sort of intuited about the longer exhale to the shorter inhale is because when you're tense, you keep the carbon dioxide in your body, which tenses up your muscles. And when you exhale longer, you get rid of more carbon dioxide, which frees up the space for you to breathe in the better oxygen. and thereby relaxing your muscles. That I have come up with my understanding, like with the 478. I had not heard of all the other ones that you brought today, but I have found that it's when I have gotten to the point of understanding that, it's to the point of helping people to relax, to calm down, and then be able to have less of a panic attack or have less anxiety.
Well, wonderful. I appreciate your comments. There was one other physiological explanation about breathing in, I have read, actually is more physically strenuous than breathing out. When you're breathing in, your diaphragm's contracting, you're pulling it in and so forth. When you're breathing out, you're just letting it go. So you're actually doing less stressful breathing when you breathe out more than while you're breathing in. So I'm sure there's a lot of very scientific reasons behind this as well, but thank you for that information.
Ray, just wanted to clarify on the 7-Eleven. I tried it and I felt it worked well for me, but I was in a relaxed state listening to you. And so I didn't breathe in real fast or breathe out fast. I just breathed at a normal tempo and almost a meditative state. So I was a little surprised when you said that you wanted to do the 7-Eleven rapidly. Could you kind of explain that to an older guy?
I'm not sure I have your question totally down here, but the point about 7-Eleven is that it is very effective as a spot or tactical form of meditation to bring about an immediate, altering of your in and out breath ratios and a calming down. And or I have had people use it as their go-to meditation to do their meditation. And so it works even then, and continuing to do it fast. So, and we will need some physiological expert to parse out all the reasons behind this. But again, my experience has been it works for both.
Okay.
It works.
Good.
So the other point, again, just to emphasize, almost all meditations are done slowly, calmly, relaxed. And a lot of folks are saying, I can't calm myself enough to do the meditation. So that's why the 7-Eleven can be a wonderful segue to take you from up here and bring you right down to where you need to be to do maybe your typical meditation.
Right.
Thank you for the comment.
Thank you very much.